The birdsong that greets you at dawn is not a serenade. It is not gratitude, it is not peace, and it is most certainly not affection. That cheerful melody drifting through your window is the sound of a desperate refugee living in the shadow of the most efficient killing species in the history of this planet, because the alternative is worse. We have built ourselves a comforting fiction, a bucolic fantasy in which the sparrows and finches and robins gather around our homes and gardens because they have made peace with us, because our feeders are generous, because there exists some quiet bond between civilization and the creatures that flit through it. Almost none of that is true. What is actually happening on your balcony, in your hedgerow, beneath your eaves, is a cold, calculated act of survival that behavioral ecologists have a rather clinical name for. They call it the human shield effect. To understand it, you have to abandon the idea of the city as a haven of crumbs and kindness, and instead see it for what it truly is, a heavily negotiated geopolitical borderland. Every small bird nesting near you is engaged in a permanent, tense calculation of risk, weighing one lethal threat against another. Because in the wild, away from us, the sky is not empty, it is patrolled. Accipiter hawks, the sparrowhawks and the goshawks, are purpose-built assassins, evolved specifically to ambush small passerines with terrifying speed and precision. Owls hunt the darkness. Falcons command the open air. For a sparrow or a great tit, the natural world is not a sanctuary. It is a gauntlet in which the probability of being torn from the sky is stitched into every single day of its short life. And here is the pivot upon which the entire strategy turns. Those apex avian predators, the hawks, the ravens, the corvid raiders, are themselves paralyzed by fear of one creature above all others: us. Their flight initiation distance, the radius at which they abandon a hunt and flee human proximity, is enormous. Where a sparrow might tolerate a person a few meters away, a hunting hawk will not commit to an attack anywhere near sustained human activity. And the small birds have learned this. They have run the arithmetic across countless generations, and they have arrived at a chilling conclusion. The safest place to raise your young is not deep in the peaceful forest, but pressed directly against the body of the hyper-predator. We generate an invisible safety canopy simply by existing, a dome of terror that our own presence projects outward, keeping their killers at bay. To the small bird, we are not a friend. We are the lesser of two evils. Study after study in behavioral ecology has confirmed the pattern with unsettling consistency. Nest survival rates for certain passerines climb measurably the closer they build to human structures and human footpaths. They deliberately position their nests within meters of the places we walk, cook, argue, and sleep, not despite the danger we represent, but because of it. They are using our lethality as a weapon pointed outward, at the enemies they fear even more. It is one of the most cynical and brilliant survival maneuvers in the natural world, hiding inside the mouth of the monster, because everything else that wants to eat you is too frightened to reach in. But this shield is not offered for free, and the price these birds pay is severe. Living in our shadow means living inside a constant, grinding assault on their biology. The city bombards them with what researchers term chronic anthropogenic stress, the perpetual roar of traffic, the artificial glare of light that erases the natural rhythm of night, the relentless vibration of machinery that never sleeps. Their bodies register this: elevated stress hormones, disrupted sleep cycles, compromised immune function. The physiological toll of standing guard beside civilization is written into their very cells. They are not thriving next to us. They are enduring us. And there is a deeper, stranger cost still, one that borders on cultural annihilation. The song of a bird is not decoration. It is an ancient, precise communication system, refined over millions of years, encoding territory, identity, warning, and the invitation to mate. But that language was tuned for a world without engines. The low-frequency rumble of urban traffic drowns out the natural register of many species' songs, rendering their calls inaudible to the very individuals they are meant to reach. So the birds have been forced to change. In city after city, researchers have documented urban populations raising the pitch of their songs, shifting their frequency upward, singing louder, and even altering the timing, vocalizing in the pre-dawn quiet before the traffic swells, or through the night beneath artificial light. They are, in the most literal sense, rewriting a language that took evolutionary eons to compose, abandoning the songs of their ancestors, not out of creativity, but out of desperation. They are committing a kind of cultural suicide, simply to be heard over the noise of the fortress they cannot afford to leave. To manage all of this, the predators, the stress, the noise, the constant proximity to a species that could crush them without noticing, urban birds have become something remarkable. They have become data analysts. They do not simply cower behind us. They study us with a precision that would flatter any intelligence agency. They sort human beings into distinct behavioral castes and assign each a threat rating. The commuter, moving in a straight, predictable line, indifferent and unbothered, is filed as harmless background, white noise that provides shielding without risk. But a child, whose movements are erratic and unpredictable and impossible to model, triggers alarm. A person carrying a long, linear object, a broom, a rake, an umbrella, a camera tripod, provokes something older and deeper, because that silhouette echoes the ancient outline of a raised weapon, the geometry of the spear that hunted their bloodline for 100,000 years. They map our schedules with the same cold efficiency. They learn when the cafe opens and the crumbs appear, when the gardener arrives and the danger rises, when the street empties in the afternoon lull, and they become safe to feed under our protection. They are not reacting to us moment by moment. They are predicting us, running a continuous behavioral forecast of the giant, unpredictable predators whose territory they have chosen to inhabit. Every hop, every pause, every sudden burst into flight is the output of a survival algorithm processing us as terrain, mapping the safe corridors and the killing zones within the fortress of human life. And so we arrive at the truth that dismantles the fantasy entirely. The robin outside your window does not see a friend. It does not see a benefactor, a companion, or a gentle giant offering seed out of the goodness of some shared spirit. It sees a biological fortress made of meat and concrete, a walking, breathing weapon whose lethality it has learned to hide behind. Every note of its song is a calculation. Every glance in your direction is threat assessment. Its presence in your garden is not a gift. It is a hostage situation in which both parties have simply agreed to a fragile, unspoken ceasefire. We like to believe that we have tamed the natural world, that we have drawn it close and made peace with it, that the creatures who live among us have chosen our company. We have done nothing of the kind. What we have actually created is a permanent state of psychological negotiation, a borderland where the wild has calculated, coldly and correctly, that living pressed against the deadliest species that has ever existed is somehow safer than going home. That is the real meaning of the dawn chorus, not affection, not peace, just millions of small, terrified survivors, singing from behind a shield they can never afford to lower, and never ever a shield they were offered out of love.